Hi, welcome to the first video of my brand new YouTube channel. I've wanted to create things for a while now on YouTube and through The Sims, and I want to show my builds and how they come together, how I make them, and I also just want to experiment a bit with video editing, which I really just want to learn a bit more about, and what better way is there than making your own videos. So that's what I think my channel's going to be. It's going to be a creative space that I can interact with, hopefully some simmers and people that enjoy the game just as much as I do, and I can share the gameplay aspects that I love and building. I'm mostly a game player, but I've only just got into building in the last few months when I've been playing a lot more. I love challenging myself, so I've actually never built a house like this one. I took a sort of Spanish inspiration. I used a reference image to start with to get the general shape that I wanted, because living in the UK there's not much that I can take inspiration from, and then I've done everything else that I sort of thought would fit into that Spanish theme. And all of my builds I try and make very different, so I really try and challenge myself. I thought in this first video I'd just share a little bit about myself as well. I actually started playing Sims at about 5 years old, and I found it through a friend when I went over to their house and they were playing it, and I came back immediately and I asked my parents to buy it for me. And I got Sims 1 to start off with, and my dad and I would play it, and he'd send me off to bed and he'd keep going and make some families and find out new things of the game, and it sort of just started from there. I then had Sims 2 and Sims 3, which I absolutely loved, especially Pets and Generations, which I think is a fan favourite. I loved them, and now I've been playing Sims 4 since it first came out, and I've seen it grow, and I've sort of picked it up and put it down. I didn't get to play too much during my time at university, but now that I've graduated with a geography degree, I can get back to it. So I've been playing much more regularly now, and so I thought it was time to start a channel and hopefully meet some new people, share inspiration and how other people play the game, and just my little corner of it. I'm also taking a gap year this year, so I'm not sure how that's going to go with what the world is like at the moment, but I was hoping to do a ski season, but I may not be able to do that, so that's where the channel will hopefully come in and be really nice and keep me entertained while I'm doing boring job searching. But enough about me, let's talk about this build. You've sort of seen the shell come together now, and I'm working on a little alcove that I thought they could sit in, enjoy the views. I know Sims don't do that much, but I just love having places like that in a home. It makes it look so much more realistic that you might sit with a book or with your coffee in the morning and just look at these windows. So this took forever. It's actually cut down how long it took to get the idea of the shelves and to place everything right. And I've obviously got the move objects cheat on, which is a lifesaver when building. But I love being inspired by other creators who take an object that's meant for the kitchen or a shelf and they turn it into something that's completely different and make insane dining room tables or islands or whatever they do with it. So that's really something that I want to get better at, because I take things on the surface a lot of the time, so a shelf will be used as a shelf, and I'm just trying to get into that creativity of building, which can really make builds unique and completely different to what just dragging and dropping items into the gallery. You can make so many different structures with that. So that's something that I really want to improve on, so that I can make my builds a lot more interesting. And actually on this, the first thing I placed in this house was the fridge behind the stairs, because I didn't want that bathroom, which is a block in the middle, to be a tile smaller, because then it wouldn't have been symmetrical. So I thought it worked well to have the stairs behind it and then the fridge next to it, because I wanted the fridge to be in this right hand section anyway. So I think that worked really well, and I think it creates a nice plan for the kitchen. The windows that I put in this house I've never actually used. The ones that I'm placing here are base game windows, but the ones at the front are from the university pack, and it's a really strange collection of windows that they've given you in that pack, and a lot of them I haven't used because they just don't go with any of the builds that I make. But I thought for a Spanish inspired build with the curved edges at the top and they're quite grand and large, I thought that they actually worked really well and they went really quite nicely with those base game ones. But it did make putting curtains in the house super difficult. As I said before, this really is a completely new style of build. I would usually put wood flooring in and carpets, and today I went for tiles and pretty much all brown furniture, and it's really quite dated inside, but I think we've got a lot of items that work towards that aesthetic. And a lot of items that I actually don't use, so I thought it was a perfect opportunity to use things that I don't usually when I'm doing a style of house that I don't usually do. So I've put these tiles down. I understand that Jungle Adventure has some really nice tiles for builds like this, but I don't actually have that pack yet, so this is just base game tiles. But I think it works quite well. I mean, as I say, it does create a very brown colour scheme, which I try and deviate away from in other sections of the house, but it really, for that main room, open plan living, it is very brown, and I do know that. And yeah, if you see, I've actually got a house that I'm making at the moment, and if you see that one, it's completely opposite. So I'm really trying not to get into sort of one style of building. I want to be inspired by lots of different places in the world, lots of different creators and builders that are out there at the moment to really try and make something that's interesting for me to build, and I'm not using the same items every time, and also interesting for other people to have a look at and download. And this might not be what you want in your game, and that's absolutely fine, you don't have to, but my next house you might absolutely love, so we'll see. And I do hope that people like it and get inspired by it, or maybe use it. It'd be awesome. And I'm really trying to get to know other simmers. I would love to hear their stories, how you guys play. So right now I'm just finishing the detail in the kitchen. So this is with the move objects cheat, and I really wish that there was a way to turn off the snapping to countertops so that you could place things freely and easily. But right now you obviously have to move all of the counters so that you can get things. But I love putting those small little clutter items in corners and sizing them down and putting them really close to sinks, if that's where they're supposed to go in a kitchen, to make it really look lived in. Here you see I was really struggling with that circular roof piece because it was clipping through the wall, and I just couldn't work out a way to reduce that. So I thought best thing to do is just hide it. So it's hidden behind that shower, and that kind of helped me sort out what I wanted for the floor plan upstairs. So we've got 2 bedrooms and a Jack and Jill bathroom, which I think it's not supposed to be a huge house, and I think that works really well. The rooms are both good sizes, but you don't need that corridor making the room smaller. So I think I quite like that layout upstairs. And now I'm just furnishing the downstairs bathroom. Because it's got no windows, it's quite bare in there, which is why there are so many photos and paintings, which probably is not very realistic, and probably I wouldn't want to do a windowless bathroom much, but it works. You're not going to see it much of the time if you don't play your game with walls up constantly. So I think it's okay, but as I say, it was quite a boring wall, and I didn't know what else to do other than put lots of paintings on it. But I quite like these tiles. They're another item that I never ever use, and pretty much all of the wallpaper in this house I actually never use because it is so dated and brown, and they are really nice assets, but they're just not. I quite like modern builds or exteriors and modern interiors, and that's probably just because it's so common in where I live and in a lot of houses at the moment. Right now I'm just working on the master bedroom, and I think it's even though it's downstairs, it's the most spacious room, and I could really see an old couple living here and maybe just using the downstairs, sort of using the house as a bungalow, even though there is upstairs, and they might have their children or have upstairs as guest bedrooms, or for their grandchildren, something like that. I could really see this house be used for. I really quite liked that green wallpaper, but I did realise that the bed swatch that's currently in there was absolutely disgusting. It didn't go at all. It made it look even more dated than it was already. So I do switch that up to something a little bit brighter and more modern, even though I don't think I changed the bed too much. And then we changed the bed, and then we come up and I started to furnish the outsides. This is more column placing, which is just such an annoying part of it at the moment. I really couldn't get them as I wanted, but in the end I just left it because I do think the foundation swatch matched quite well with the columns, and so that did help tie it in nicely. I'm just picking the outside tiles. I quite like having busy houses, so that extra space downstairs I'm not really a fan of, and not having anything in this corridor upstairs either isn't really something I would do, but I think the space just called for it because I really couldn't think what else you would need. And you've already got the very needed chess set, which I don't know any house that has a chess table, but every Sims house needs one. And yeah, I just couldn't think what else to put it because I don't like having too many seats either, because I just think that that's a very strange concept. But now we're on to the second bedroom, and those candles are some of my favourite things in the game. Both of them, I think both of them are from City Living, and they are just gorgeous. They work in every single room. There are, especially for the trio, there are modern swatches, there are old swatches. It just goes with everything, and I think it just puts a lovely sort of detail on it. I use them all the time, pretty much all my builds. This, I thought I would put chairs in, but I decided that it just didn't work with the room, I think, again, because there were just too many places to sit. So I thought I'd switch it up and put some skill building items. Also, that rug that's gone under the bed, I think that might also be City Living. It is the best rug in the game. I size it up, I put it under everything. It's another thing that's in all of my builds, because it's just got so much more texture than a lot of them, and it's thicker, so it actually comes off the floor, whereas others just look like floor pieces. And I think that's the thing. I just think it's an amazingly made asset, and it's just completely different. So I wish we had more like that. We got one in the Vintage Glamour pack that I have, but it's faux leather or faux fur, and it just doesn't look as good. It's trying, but it's not as perfect. For ease, I decided to make the bathrooms very similar, with their wallpaper and their tiles, because I just think it ties the house in nicely from the downstairs and the upstairs. As I say, I try and put much more colour in the upstairs than the downstairs. I just think you can be a lot more creative with the bedrooms, and I quite like colour coordination, so I usually go for one colour and have it work throughout the bedroom. And now we're on to the last one. So this is the kids' room. I never use it, but I absolutely love that wallpaper in this room because it's not too big a room, so I don't think it feels too repetitive. But as a kids' room, I think it just works so well because it's just so fun, and I can imagine children loving waking up with little daisies on their wall every day. I really tried to stock out this kids' room completely by alt placing things, making it look quite messy, like children have just sort of left all their toys out, scattered it out, and I tried to fit absolutely everything I could into quite a small space. So you've got the drawing table. I put a uni, I think he's called, in, and tried to make that as large as I could, but it couldn't be full size. And then just a little school backpack at the end of the bed like you would have. And then I just really filled up all the walls with decorations, made it a really fun space for the kids, which I wish I had it as a kid, so much wall decorations and things on there. And so I decided to finish the house with with some lighting. I actually do go back at the end and add curtains, finish some touches, and what's not shown is that I do change some of the lights underneath. Sorry, on the lower floor, because I did forget to do those. So I did try and make it as as detailed as I could, but I did forget a few things that I had to go back and change. And I'm just realising now that I should have put a bin in the kitchen. That's something I completely forgot. But there is a bin outside, so they will at least have one, and you can always add that in if you do decide to use it in your game. It's really expensive as a house, I think, because I've got kind of all the best appliances. The windows aren't exactly cheap. A lot of the things I don't skimp out on, so I think it's around 100,000, something like that. We can check that on the gallery later. But it's not a cheap thing. It's not huge. It's definitely not a mansion by any means. It's a nice sort of family home size. But yeah, it's quite expensive for your Sims, so it's a second or third house probably. And I'm just starting construction of the back. I didn't know how big I wanted this house, so it's actually quite a large house for the size of the garden, and I haven't used the full, I think 30 by 20 plot size, even though I could have, but I just think it works. Like, not every house has a huge garden, and it's got this sort of raised fence around it, and actually I did change it to a split level for the pool, which I think works really quite nicely. This is probably one of my favourite features, that I sunk part of the landscaping, so you've got it's quite a busy area of just plants and things, and I can imagine it being a planter. It just gives it some sort of character, I think. And I've alt placed all of these rocks. I love doing that for paths, and to intersperse rocks with your garden, with the plants and things. I think that looks really nice, and those rocks are really well done. They're very versatile. But I think the silver or the brown swatch that we've got there is probably the best one of the game. I'm not so keen on the blues and the reds that they've also given us. But as always, I'm thankful to have any colour swatches that we can. With the sort of Spanish-inspired house, I thought an alfresco dining area would be really lovely, so that's why they've got such a huge barbecue area. It just works to really frame that fence as well. And it took a bit of fiddling because the grid placement didn't line up with the fence, it clipped, so I've moved all of that so it shouldn't. And then as I do all the time, I've just put extra things on there. I liked this sort of trio of lights, especially in the different colours. I think that made it look really fun. And I'm just applying the finishing touches to things, all the things that you would need if you're barbecuing outside in the sunshine. And actually in the evening light, it shows that it's still got sun on it, so I think that's a perfect place to have your dinner or have guests over. And of course the pets picnic table. It's such a detailed piece with so many different wood colours and things in there that I really love it, and I think it works well with the aesthetic. I've never made a YouTube video, which I'm sure this build showcases, so I really love some feedback, whether the speed of the speed build is good, how audio is, and I really do want to create an interactive space on this channel. So if you have any builds that you would like that for a specific family in your game, or anything you'd like me to see, if you'd like to torture me with build challenges or really difficult ways and really challenge my building, or if you'd also like to see some gameplay, I've got a lot of families that I'm working with at the moment, which I'm really loving doing different generations for, and there's so much that I want to explore. I obviously at the moment don't have all the packs, and so I do want to add to that in the next few weeks and months by buying bundles. I think the next one that I want to buy, the next expansion pack, is Island Living, because I think the gameplay options for that are so exciting, and also I think there are quite a few nice build items, and it's a completely new world that will create loads of different things I can be really inspired by. So that there is that to come. There'll hopefully be some island builds, but really anything you want. I've created a new Twitter and an email which are linked in the bio down below. You can also comment on the video, which I would love. I really just want to hear from everybody and anybody about Sims and my stuff and what you want to see, and anything that you think would benefit this channel and be some constructive criticism, that'd be really great. Just the final touches now with that walkway up. Just doing a bit of terrain paint. Terrain paint is actually something that is so skilled, a skill that I don't really have yet. It really just helps bring your build to life, and you've just got, I don't like keeping the default grass because I'm not sure it doesn't look real, so I always try and put some terrain paint on, and especially when you're sort of putting the dirt underneath the trees and around the rocks and things, it just makes it all stand out a bit and look a bit more finished. And I thought it was a bit bare, so I put 2 trees in, sized it down, did a bit more of terrain paint, really just the details that make it look like a family home and like it's a detached property with some interest. And here I am messing around with all those curtains. I went for what worked. Those curtains that I've chosen aren't very obtrusive, so I didn't have to move too many of the decorations and the decor around in the rooms. A lot of this actually is cut down because I did spend a lot of time working out which would suit, because so many of these curtains are old-fashioned, so it's really hard to work. I mean, this is an old-fashioned interior, luckily, but in so many of the other houses, they just don't work together, and I find myself using the same curtains constantly because they're the only ones that look vaguely modern. And here we are, we've got to the end of the build. I've moved my sim self in, and I thought I'd take a quick look around in tab mode, which is a lovely way to view properties, and it just shows exactly what it would look like in a Sims view. So we've got that needed chess table to start off with into the kitchen. And as I say, everything is quite old-fashioned. I think they will work well together, and there aren't too many different wood tones, which is always a trouble in The Sims. If you're using loads of things that don't actually have the same shade, it can look really mismatched, but I think it worked quite well using things from different packs that all went together. This little nook, I popped Baby Yoda in. I'm not sure really why. I kind of felt that it fitted because this house could have been sort of from the 1970s or something when Star Wars was just coming out. I'm not really sure that it does follow an actual time period in its style, but I didn't know. I've never used that Baby Yoda before, and I just thought it sort of fitted there with all the other statues. And now we're upstairs, just flick through that, into bedroom number 2. So there they've got their skill building items, they've got all the clutter on the dresser, those lovely candles, and I really quite like the wallpaper in this actually. And we've got bathroom number 2, it's just got everything you need really. That shower as well with a bath, if you wanted to have pets or something, that can be really useful. And we've got the little kids room. So it's probably quite geared at girls, but whatever you want, you can change the wallpaper around, you can move it all if you wanted it more masculine, or you can just play as it is and have sort of both male and female children in there. And then we've got the outside area. So thank you for listening and watching my first speed build. Let me know what you think. It's now on the gallery, so my name on the gallery is HeppiSims, and give it a like and a comment, and follow my gallery if you want to see some of my new builds before they come out on YouTube. And I will be back soon for another speed build. Give me a like and comment and a subscribe if you want to see more of my content, and click that notification button if you do. I'd be very grateful. So thank you very much. I will see you next time.